Welcome to video 8 in the Unlocking Outreach series. This video works hand in hand with chapter 10 of the Unlocking Outreach workbook, which is available from Amazon. We are going to look at ways to better communicate with other people, especially those with a different intellect from ourselves. We've seen how method teaming helps us look for patterns in people's thinking. Those patterns form the 4 intellects. Strategists are those that have a flow of new, original ideas. They think about what we are going to do. PDs are doers and makers and are usually motivated to acquire knowledge. They think about how we plan and complete a project or a task. The where and when people, who are always looking for opportunities, are the EQs. They have a wonderful sense of timing. And those that always think about the people side of things are the networkers. So, in this video, we're going to consider communication between the 4 intellects. What approach should we take, and what are the key do's and don'ts? Let's start with the strategist. What does the strategist want from you? They appreciate you aligning with their big picture thinking. They want your ability to help make their vision and ideas into something real, and to do it quickly before they move to their next idea. Generally speaking, strategists are not so good at interacting with people, so your assurance of how to handle the people side of things is ideal. We're going to look at the do's and don'ts when communicating with strategists. Do carefully listen to their ideas and vision. While you might not agree, don't be tempted to shoot them down. If they feel you're listening, they will engage with you. Do try to stay with the big picture. They may go off at a tangent or into depth on another topic, but if they do, allow them to lead. Perhaps try to use pictures or anecdotal stories in your response. Do try to be a few steps ahead of them. This is tough because, by nature, they will already be a few steps ahead of you. But try hard, as this will bring credibility. Let's complete the picture with 2 important don'ts when communicating with the strategist. Avoid small talk and chit-chat. Most of them don't appreciate it. Instead, try to move the conversation to something meaty and get them talking about their ideas. The other don't is any attempt to trump their ideas. Whatever you do, avoid being tempted with the response of, "Yes, but." They will see this as a challenge, and it will drive a gap between you and them. Let's move to the PD and see what they want from you. They want detail, content, and to know what you know, and more. Having a few books or video recommendations up your sleeve is always good, as most PDs are big readers. Maybe ask the PDs in your church for some books they'd suggest. You must be prepared to go into detail with a PD. If you don't have the answers yourself, why not draw your own PD into the conversation with the visitor? PDs will always be looking for proof and may very well approach the Christian faith from a factual rather than an emotional basis. Finally, don't be afraid to ask them questions, but when you do, make sure you listen in great detail to their answers. Do not cut their conversation off. Let's consider the do's and don'ts when communicating with a PD. Give them detail. PDs love a logical, well laid out story with a beginning, middle, and end. They want as much depth as you can give them. If you can't provide that depth yourself, then introduce them to somebody else who can, probably another PD. Give them proof. This is where it really helps to have your faith story rehearsed and fixed in your mind. Some tips on how to build your 100-word faith story are in Chapter 9 of the Unlocking Outreach Workbook. Finally, do ask them about their concerns. They will start to open up and tell you, but only if they feel you are listening in detail and that they trust you. As for the don'ts with a PD, here are two big ones. Whatever you do, don't change the subject or move the goalposts. You see, they may be drilling down in a specific area and they won't appreciate you trying to change the topic. Finally, don't tell them everything. Make it clear there's more to know and leave some intrigue and mystery. This makes for a perfect hook to follow up and continue the conversation another time. Now we're going to see what the EQ wants from you. Remember that EQs look for opportunities and that they love to win. What they want from you is speed and brevity. So get to the point, no waffle. What's the bottom line? They will want you to provide something of value as it relates to them. For example, some business or social connection you might have. Or perhaps some quick pointers about the Christian faith that will accelerate their understanding. And don't be afraid to push back or challenge the EQ. This will feel alien to most PDs, strategists, and networkers, but it will often have the effect of building credibility and respect in the eyes of the EQ. Here are the do's when it comes to engaging with an EQ. Do get to the point. You literally have only a couple of minutes to engage with the EQ before they lose interest and start to look for somebody else to talk to. Be prepared with some personal contacts that you might want to introduce them to. For example, perhaps you know somebody senior in the industry the EQ works in. Also, keep checking for zoning out. This is when their eyes glaze over, or you may spot them looking over your shoulder and scanning the room for somebody else to talk to. These are indications you've lost the attention of the EQ. So either change gear or introduce them to another EQ. Let's add the don'ts. Firstly, don't burden EQs with details. If they want depth, they will ask you. Secondly, don't be long-winded or feel you have to tell the whole story. EQs are happy with assumptive jumps. In fact, they will be making those big assumptive jumps themselves. Just you listen when you next meet an EQ. Finally, let's explore the networker and see what they want from you. Networkers are sensitive to and empathetic with people. They want to build a trusted relationship. And that's a tough thing to do quickly. It all takes time. Networkers will want assurance that people are being looked after. Beware that the networker may well turn the conversation to be all about you. They do this because they want to get to know you and trust you. And to that point, don't be surprised if they ask if they can connect with you on social media, such as Facebook or LinkedIn. That's because they want to extend their network. When it comes to do's with the networker, try hard to be empathetic. They are looking at ways to build relationships with you and other people you can introduce them to. Remember that networkers have a built-in radar that understands what each intellect can bring to the party. So stay people focused, remembering the networker knows that nothing happens or is achieved without people. As for the don'ts with a networker, here are a couple of tips. Firstly, don't let the networker turn the tables on you and make you the center of conversation. Try to stay focused on the networker and keep turning the conversation back to them. Secondly, a word of warning, especially for the EQs, and that is not to oversell. Networkers cannot abide this, and it will do nothing for building trust. Always remember, the networker is constantly assessing your body language and what it says about you. You've been warned. One last thing before we finish this video. Have you noticed anything odd about the method teaming icon? Have you noticed which intellects touch each other or not? Can you see it yet? Aha! You've noticed it! The EQ and PD intellects don't actually come into contact with each other. This is very significant, and you should be ready and prepared to mind the gap, because PDs and EQs look at each other in different ways and often at arm's length. It's important to know why. How do PDs perceive EQs? Do you remember that it's generally the case that PDs have the highest thirst for knowledge and wish to work with facts? On the other hand, EQs typically don't need much information or many facts to make decisions. Much of what they do is gut feel. This will usually mean the PD perceiving the EQ as shallow in their thinking and having no facts or substance to support their decision making. The PD will therefore look at the EQ as somebody who couldn't successfully deliver a project. As a result, the PD will find it hard to trust the EQ and, ultimately, avoid all contact with them. But now, let's look how the EQ perceives the PD. The PD usually has deep knowledge. They know how to get things done. Most are strong finishers. Because of this, the EQs will perhaps look at the PD as being nerds and the detailed nuts and bolts people. For sure, the EQ will perceive the PD as someone that can't spin an idea and certainly couldn't sell their way out of a paper bag. Instead, the EQ will be irritated by the PD as someone that wants to tell them everything they know on a particular subject, which of course the EQ doesn't have time for. Hopefully, you can see how important it is for PDs and EQs to understand each other's intellects. You are now ready to watch video 9. This gives you guidance for putting unlocking outreach into action, whether you're running a full outreach event or starting with a few simple steps to improve the way you welcome people into your church.